Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First Tree Group to our virtual conference Nepal Solar Week 2022. Hope you had a great time in networking with your peers today. Now it's time to start with the conference, but before that, I take the opportunity to thank our sponsors for extending their immense support to organize the event. Our platinum partners, FIMR and National Solar Power Company. Requesting my team to kindly play the sponsor features.
Every day we start here at our company, FIMR. Here is where we build value for future generations, using clean energy as a response to the world's growing energy needs. Through a complete portfolio of solutions for energy conversion and storage, and charging infrastructure for the growing e-mobility sector. We are a global company present in over 20 countries, with more than 1,100 employees active in more than 100 markets, a presence that always allows us to stay close to our customers. This is also possible thanks to our 100% Italian supply chain, where our solutions are entirely conceived, developed and produced. Starting with our global headquarters, a shining example of efficiency, sustainability and technology that has made us one of the few companies with zero impact. Here in Vimercate, we have an area specialized in cutting-edge metal carpentry and logistics. We invest in high-precision machinery and technologies. In our Terranova Bracciolini production center, we have research and development and production and logistic areas. These allow us to respond quickly and efficiently to the customer requests all over the world. All this is possible thanks to the innovative processes and technologies and high specialized staff who follow the entire production and assembly process, making FIMR an Italian technology leader. In FIMR, we look at the future and we do so with ambition. Welcome to a new energy era. Welcome to FIMR.
Requesting the audience to kindly be patient. The video would be played in a couple of seconds. Apologies for the delay. We'll play the sponsor video again after the opening remarks of Mr. Sandeep sir. So we are pleasure to have Mr. Sandeep sir with us, who is the managing director and chairman of Pashupati Renewables and former president of Independent Power Producers Association Nepal. It's a pleasure to have you on board, sir. Please go ahead and share your opening remarks.
Thank you, Priyanshi. Good afternoon, everyone. We're happy to step in for the Vice President of Independent Power Producers Association. He's not well. Um, Let me just start off by saying that in Nepal, we do have a lot of potential for solar, but still, solar is not the main resource for electricity generation. Main resource for electricity generation is hydro. And till recently, hydro was getting all the prominence. We had an Electricity Act from 1992, which was guiding the development of hydropower projects in Nepal. Various estimates are floating around about, solar is very recent. Probably I will say just about 7, 8 years back, the government started looking at energy generation mix. We realized that hydro is a good resource, it's a renewable resource, but we need to have other forms of electricity generation. We also looked at wind, but the potential for wind power was not to the extent that we had hoped for. Now, when solar, we started looking at solar just about 2012, 13. There were very few studies on the potential for solar in Nepal. We did not have any solar irradiance measurements. We also had not got the technology. Again, solar at that time was quite expensive, and we had plenty of hydro. So we had started looking at doing small scale, possibly off grid solar projects. Rooftop solar projects were becoming quite prominent. At that time, in 2012, 13, we did have a lot of power cuts, almost up to 14, 15 hours a day. So we could see a lot of these solar and battery systems coming up on rooftop. And I remember from those days, we had to really make sure that the batteries were charged from the grid as well as from the solar panels that we had. Now, around 2015-16, the government said we need to have a solar project, grid-connected solar project development policy as well. And they started looking at the various possibilities. The principal agency which was looking after solar in Nepal was the Ministry of Energy. And within that, the Alternate Energy Promotion Center was looking at the solar energy development, mainly off-grid. But gradually, AEPC, the Alternate Energy Promotion Center, started looking at the on-grid solutions as well, and had advised the Ministry of Energy on how to go about it. In 2017, the Ministry of Energy took a principal decision, policy decision, on having up to 10% of the installed capacity in the grid to be from solar energy or from renewable energy sources other than hydro. So, we didn't have wind, so that the only option for us was solar. And since then, this policy of up to 10% of the installed capacity has been there. And at the moment, in Nepal, we have about 2,200 megawatts of installed capacity, principally hydro. Out of it, just about 50 megawatts are from solar. We still don't have that 10% yet. Government also came up with a number of directives on how the solar projects have to be developed. The grid-connected solar projects, they defined a policy whereby the licensing processes were defined. The power purchase agreement modalities were also defined with the grid, with the utility, and there was a posted tariff given for the energy generated from solar projects. When this all started in 2016-17, the posted tariff was around 9.6 Nepali rupees per unit. Um, it was reduced to 7.3 about 2 years back, and there is a big discussion going on right now about what should be the tariff going forward. Uh, if you look at the potential for solar generation in Nepal, it's pretty high. The solar irradiance levels are very good, especially when you get into the flatlands of the Tarai in the south. Also, on the south facing slopes of the mid hills, possibility of doing solar is there. And as you go further up into the mountains, especially in high altitude desert areas, we have possibilities of very good solar resource, which which can lead to good solar projects. The solar irradiance levels in those high altitude plateaus are very high, almost 6.6 to 7 kilowatt hour per kilowatt per square meter. So, good possibilities. Several things have to be looked at when you are developing a solar project. I'm pretty sure all of us know about it. We need to make sure that land is available for these projects. The constructability of projects, especially in mountain and hill regions, becomes quite an issue. We should not have very high sloping lands. Foundation conditions, hopefully, and as far as possible, they should be uniform. We should not be looking at drilling directly into rock. We should be, looking at possibly softer soil to put in our foundations. The distance to the grid substation, especially, in Nepal, the grid is still not all over the country. So we have to be very sure about where the grid substation is, and we need to be, in the vicinity of that substation. We also need to make sure that the access roads are available so that we can bring our materials to the site. We also need to make sure that we are not setting up our power plants in settlement areas or in national parks. There are quite a few national parks in Nepal, so conservation areas have to be avoided. And we need to make sure that all the permits and approvals which are required from the government are in place. Um, at the moment, there is a big interest for doing a lot of these grid-connected solar projects. Um, People are still doing a lot of hydros in Nepal, but we see a definite shift towards doing towards doing solar projects. There seems to be a healthy competition growing up, and what we have been advocating from our side is that solar is not competing with hydro. We have this what we call the run of river hydros in Nepal. We are not competing with them. We are in fact supplementing them. Because what happens with the run of river hydros is that during the winter months, the flow in the river is low and the generation is very low. While there is lots of sunshine and we can generate a lot of solar energy and we can supplement the energy requirements of the grid. Similarly, for all of these peaking run of river projects, we can supply the generation during the daytime when they can store the water in the small reservoirs, and then during the evening peak periods they can supply for the peak demands. So this discussion is still ongoing, and there's been a number of developments happening. Some positive, some not that positive. What we have seen from the policymakers' side now is that they're looking at further reducing the posted tariff, principally because of what is happening in India. And there's always a parallel drawn between what has been happening in India, why the tariffs are so low in India, and why not it could be possible in Nepal. So the government had, constituted a committee which got some consultants who gave the reports, and the prices have now been taken up by the utility as a benchmark. And I'm not very happy to say that the benchmark is very attractive. It's just about 5.94 Nepali rupees delivered at the grid point, and there would be a reverse auction on that rate. So that whole system of reverse auctions has has caught up here in Nepal as well. And going forward, that is what the utility wants to do. This has been brought up to the notice of the regulator, and there is lots of discussions going on about what should be the tariff and who should decide the tariff. Now, there are some fundamental differences between what has been happening in India and what has been in Nepal, and why the Indian model is still not applicable in Nepal. If you look at what has been happening there in India, we see very large scale projects coming up. The solar park policy is there, whereby the solar park area is developed. All the technical studies are done, techno-economic assessments, approvals, and permits. The grid is, the transmission lines are built up to that location, and then only these auctions are conducted. So most of that development risk, the development capital, is already taken up by the government. Besides that, the financing of these projects are at very, I would say, cheap rates in India. Unlike all of these developments, here in Nepal, we are still in a stage where we have to do everything from right from scratch. We have to look at, identifying the sites, getting the licenses, getting approvals, permits, DPRs, environmental approvals, and then only we have to go in for our financing. And financing is still not as attractive as in India. So looking at all of this thing, and if you're looking at a fairly healthy return from your project, the numbers which have been floated around by the utility don't seem to be attractive. We are in discussions with the regulator, and hopefully things will improve, and we will see a lot more of solar generation coming on grid. Uh, that 10%, up to 10% of the installed capacity policy still has a lot of vacancy there, for solar power projects. As I said, only about 50 megawatts have been installed. And there are about another 50 megawatts in construction. And we could easily accommodate 100 megawatts more. On the hydro side, there's about 3,000 megawatts coming up online in the next 3 years. So we could have another 300 megawatts of solar in the next 3 years. So we are looking at a total of almost 500 megawatts. It's not a very large number, if you look at what is happening in the region. But for Nepal, graduating from where we are to the 500 megawatts solar capacity on grid would be fantastic. A lot of changes need to happen. We have been working, as a group from the solar power producers to educate the policymakers and the politicians as well that why solar is essential. What has also happened in the recent past is this commitment that the government of Nepal has made at COP26 in Scotland last year, where the net zero emission was planned for 2000, I think it is 2035 or 2040. For that, a lot of hydro would have to be added on grid. Besides that, solar would also have to be brought on grid. Climate change has definitely had an impact on the hydros. We have seen in most of the projects that the planned generation has not been achieved. There has been very erratic rainfall, precipitation, which has caused a number of these power projects to be in hydropower projects to be in distress. So the alternative, of course, is solar. So that understanding of why solar is needed in the system is gradually coming up. I certainly hope that there will be much better and much fairer understanding of solar in Nepal in the months to come, and we will be able to see a lot more solar projects in development. So with that, Priyanshi, I think I will end right now, and we can come back to the discussions later.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words and your insightful opening remarks and setting up the tone for the event. We'll be proceeding with our techno commercial presentation by Mr. Aniket, sir. Before that, we'll be playing a short sponsor video and we'll proceed with the presentation after that. Requesting my team to please play the video. So there are some technical errors. My team is trying to fix it. But the show must go on, so we'll move with our sponsor presentation by Mr. Aniket Day from FIMA. Over to you, sir. Welcome on screen.
Thank you.
Please share your screen, sir. Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Solar Quarter, for arranging such a beautiful events. So today I will explain about our products. So FIMA has started journey in his business basically 1942. They have established with a welding machine factory. From there, they have started solar inverter designing and other things on 1983. After that, they have acquired maximum some companies as well as they've opened few places, offices like Brazil, Chile. In 2018, they have started EV chargers business also. And 2020, FIMAR has acquired ABB solar inverter business. So from 2020 onwards, all ABB solar inverter is coming to FIMAR basket. So FIMAR main business is solar. So over 90% of their business is solar. They are having presence in 100 countries, and almost 20 countries they are having direct presence. We have more than 55 gigawatt installations, more than 1100 employee worldwide. We have three production sites. One is two is in Italy, one is in India. There will be three research center also. Two will be in Italy, one is in India. So as I explained earlier that almost 90% solar and 10% will be e-mobility. So in solar also we are having all the segments starting from residential, commercials and utility scale. So today I'll talk on much more on utility scale only. This is the our production factory in India. We have having more than 13 gigawatt installation in India. From 2011 onwards, we have started and slowly we have increases. And from 2019 onwards, we are crossed more than 2 gigawatt per year. Due to COVID, we are not able to manufacture more than 1.5 gigawatt. But in 2021, again we did it 2 megawatt, 2 gigawatt. These are the few references, India and worldwide. It is in 750 megawatt in Reva and 600 megawatt in Nextra. We have presence in string inverter as well as central inverter for utility scale. Depend on the customer requirements and depend on the geographical situation of the site we are offering to our customers. Nowadays, we are coming with the storage solutions also. So we are offering a customer for the bidirectional converter along with EMS that I will explain later slide. These are a complete portfolio for utility scale product starting from 350 kilowatt string inverter. Then we are having up to from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt central inverter. We can offer customer as a bidirectional converter up to 2.3 MVA for storage solutions. We are offering customer to a complex skid solution also, that is called medium voltage solutions. We are offering inverter, transformer, and switchgear all together. Depend on the customer requirements, we can customize these things and we can offer to our customers. Already we have supplied one skid to Nepal earlier. So our central inverter, basically it is having inside stainless steel, outside it is aluminum with powder coating. It is a very robust design. It came from ABB drives background. So this product is highly efficient with a very auxiliary low power consumption. And lifetime we are declaring more than 25 years. Uh, this product actually it is having dual layer technology. Inside it will be inside and outside, in between there will be a air pocket, so there is no chance of transferring heat from outside to inside. This is basically 1500-volt system. This product basically it is a scalable product. Nowadays market is moving towards bigger capacity to optimize the cost of the total project. So we have starting from 1 megawatt, the two module have added to 2 megawatt, three module adding to 3 megawatt, and four module to 4 megawatt. So it is a modular system. So depend on the requirements, we can offer to our customers. It's a scalable solutions. This is very longer life and without any pumping technology we are using. So there is no liquid inside, there is no motor and pump, there is no maintenance also. Very few maintenance required to maintain the system over a 20 period of times. So I will explain later slides what is the service portions and what to be replaced in periodic way. This is the way we are offering. We can give up to 5 MVA skid solutions to our customers. So here we can transfer this complete unit with integration up to a 40-feet container to customer site. It is a very plug and play. It is very easy to use it inside because it's a very basically plug and play solutions. Input side DC cable you have to bring, and output 33 kV, 11 kV you have to take it out. The same thing we can do it to our string inverter also. So depend on the requirements, we can give a skid solution with string inverter. This string inverter is very powerful. It is having capacity of 350 kilowatt. This is the highest in the market. So this inverter we can give IV diagnostics features as well as DC side arc fault protection also we can give. This is basically the way we are showing here how the skid will be looking like. So it will definitely reduce the O&M cost and availability will be more than 99.9%. This is the our Indian service and install base. Almost 35 people are available for service. We are maintaining more than 99.5% uptime. This is the few major installation available in India. So we did few projects in Nepal. This is 10 megawatt Mithila project done by Kusal Power, Kusal Projects Nepal Private Limited. So here we have given 4 megawatt system. This is Chandanagapur 4 megawatt. These are the projects. Few are commissioned, few are under commissioning. So service, whatever I am talking, these are the very less components we have to change over a period of 25 years. With each and every 6 to 7 years, we have mentioned already what are the components need to change, and the cost of the components are very less. Basically, it will be a fans or filters, air filters need to change. So there is no major component changing requirement during the period of 25 years. So availability of the product will be very high. Now I'll talk on utility scale storage product, because nowadays market is moving towards storage also. There is a big demands from the storage solution because of the grid stability. When you are pumping maximum power from solar, so daytime it will be available, evening time the grid doesn't have any power apart from normal utility. So in that scenario, that storage will play a vital role. There will be peak savings. Whenever your peak is curtailed in the daytime, you can save it in the battery. You can dispatch the same thing at evening. Frequency regulation you can do. So this is the basic block diagram of a storage solutions. So our scope will be converter. So if customer wants, we can offer customer to medium voltage transformer as well as EMS with switchgear. Battery and BMS will be taken care by customers. This is having 4 quadrant operations, and our inverter can capable to handle all 4 quadrant 100%. The storage capacity started from 727 at 50 degrees centigrade up to 1045 for a single stack situation. So output voltage may vary from 480 volt to 690 volt. This is a robust design. Same from solar technology, we are bringing this product for storage also. This is for 1454 to 2091 capacity at 50 degrees centigrade. This is the same technology like 1 megawatt. This product customer is having multiple benefits, like with this system you can start a black start facility also available. Frequency regulation you can do spinning reserve features. So depend on the application, we can offer you the product as well as software and as well as EMS also. This is the highest rating at present we have. We are also under designing stage up to 4 megawatt. We can offer to our customer for a single storage converter. So at 35 degree, that same inverter can operate 4 quadrant operation up to 110%. So you can active and reactive power control is possible 100% here. As Nepal is a hilly area, so for that this inverter can capable without any duration, it can offer 202229 kVA at 40 degrees centigrade at a very high altitude. Few site references we can show it here. Recently, we have commissioned one project in Siachen, Ladakh, at Army Base Camp. Project was done by Sun Edison, and you can see here in this condition also our inverter can work. Where fully ice is there. This is Sandolera Temple, Gujarat. Here we have supplied 6 converter with 18 megawatt hour storage. So this is the first biggest project in India where we have supplied our converter for storage applications. This is Honeywell site. Honeywell, we have supplied 1 MBA storage along with skid solutions. That's all. Thank you for giving us opportunity, and this is my details. If anyone, please contact me in future.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful presentation and setting up the tone for today's event. Now, I would like to make a small announcement here. Attendees can put their questions in the Q&A box. Our panelists will take those questions after the panel ends. So now we'll be having our sponsor video and then we'll be starting with the panel discussion. Requesting my team to please play the sponsor video. Thank you so much. Sincere apologies, audience, and all our panelists for the delay. So, now it's time to begin with our first panel discussion, which is on solar utility, market outlook, and tech trends shaping large scale solar. To discuss this, we have in our elite panel Mr. Dr. Sandeep Shah from Pashupati Renewables, who is the moderator for today, Mr. Mayank Rohila from Renergo Developers, Mr. Gupharaj Dakal from Recon, and Mr. Praveen Aryal from Golian Group Energy Division. Now I welcome all the panelists on the screen and requesting Sandeep sir to kindly lead the discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Priyanka. Okay, welcome to all the panelists. We have a very interesting panel here today, and we are going to look at. I think there's a presentation going on. Is it okay? We'll continue with the panel discussion on solar utility market outlook here in Nepal and the technological trends shaping the large scale solar. So we will be focusing on the large scale grid connected solar. Um, I was just remembering last year at this session, just about a year back, we were talking about the solar PPAs and we were talking about reactive power support in the night and that the utility had demanded of us. And yes, there were solutions found, there were solutions available, and we moved forward with that. Unfortunately, we are still waiting on some of those power purchase agreements with the utility as they have come up with new policies and new requirements. Now, things have changed a lot since last year. I think the push is on to make solar projects, solar power, grid connected solar power projects to be mainstream, to be on equal footing with hydros if possible. We have also seen the possibility of some battery solutions also, grid scale battery solution, which FEMA just presented. There are discussions at the utility about setting up battery energy storage systems with solar power plants or directly in the grid at the main grid substations close to the load centers. So possibilities are opening up. So, we are expanding from where we were last year to possibilities of peak shaving and, grid stability support solutions from the batteries that could be installed in the system. I should also mention that uh, this 10% requirement is a very, I would say, limiting barrier to us. If you look at other countries in South Asia or Southeast Asia, this 10% barrier is not there. The concerns about the instabilities of production due to the solar power projects not producing when there are clouds in the sky or when there is raining or in the night, those concerns are still going around. But I believe the industry has already found solutions towards that end. And we have seen in countries in the Southeast Asian region that these solar power projects, with batteries, of course, are contributing to almost 40% of the installed capacity in the grid. So here we are limited at 10%, and we are, in fact, not even there yet. We are probably 2-3% only of the installed capacity. To the panel, I would like to ask a few basic questions. In terms of the technology, what would be required for us to really move forward, really leap forward? What would be required from a policy perspective that would make us go really forward? And also, what would be, from a uh, industry standard perspective, what will it be required for us to take this very important energy source into mainstream? So, with the panel, let me start off with Mayank. On the technology side, you have been here in Nepal for quite some years, and you have been a developer, you have been a EPC contractor, you have seen technology improving. from the 330 watt peak panels now to 600 plus watt peak bifacial and all of that. Fancy things coming up. Where do you see the technological barriers for general acceptance in the utility? Everybody feels in the utility that hydro is the thing. Why should we do solar? So
Right.
what would it take for them to understand the beauty of solar?
Right. So, thanks a lot, Dr. Shah. I mean, a wonderful start to the session, not just now, but through your opening remarks as well. You've covered the entire gamut of ecosystem that there is when it comes to solar within Nepal, and some very insightful observations as well. Not just within what's happening in Nepal, but also a comparison as to how it need not be in the same fashion as it's grown in India. Now, to your question, sir, I think the issue that we've seen in Nepal through our experience, as I said, as an EPC developer, as a developer as well as an investor, we've seen that it's not necessarily technology that's been the limitation, frankly. Insofar far as the technology is concerned, we've till date been able to use the best in class technologies. In certain cases, certain technologies which haven't even yet been implemented commercially in India, and we've been able to bring that in Nepal. There has been general acceptance in terms of how to pick it up. We do see a very clear issue in terms of the uptake of the projects due to first of all the regulatory issues that we've already mentioned and discussed quite in detail. There is a lot of there is a lack of clarity in terms of PPAs being signed. Frankly speaking, that is the biggest issue that's coming in. So although there is some amount of awareness that needs to be spread out when it comes to technology, we've tried to do that. In fact, when we say we, I mean the entire solar market in together. There's been a clear growth in terms of the awareness, understanding, knowledge base that exists in solar compared to what it used to be, let's say, 3 or 4 years back, for that matter. There's a substantial difference across the board, and that awareness exists not just among investors but also among the banking institutions, the policy makers to a certain extent, the entire machinery when it comes to the government departments which are concerned with solar development. So there is, obviously we've come to a certain extent close to the curve. It's still behind the curve when it comes to understanding what technology does relate to. A very simple example could be the way a complicated exercise such as simulation of energy estimation is captured in a very small, small table with 5 or 6 columns with very simple maths as such, and the ability to explain the same as to how complicated it is and cannot be represented in that fashion, more often not goes unnoticed. So there are certain obviously gaps that exist. In terms of technology, I'd say, sir, good technology, rather right ahead of, not at the curve, but at the curve technologies are being used right now. We've seen decent sized panels being used, as you said, some fashionable monikers there as well. But currently, just to let you know, I mean, we're using a 635 watt peak bifacial monoPERC module, which is some of the largest that's been used ever in Nepal currently. We have, as far as the technology is concerned, there are certain technology trends that are coming in, which are impacting, I mean, which will affect the entire market, let's say, another year or so to come. So, for example, we are currently using, as I said, panels of around 144 cells each. These are the cell size is around 210 and that's the latest technology that exists. What we are also seeing is that this would this would only take the panel size to around 900 to at max a 1 kilowatt sort of a size, one in terms of single panel size for that capacity. There is a shift in in the market. Currently, we're using a lot of P type modules. There is a clear shift to an N type cell manufacturing, which currently only allows for around 500 to 450 to 500 watt peak panel capacity. But in a year's time or so to come, that would be the one that will lead the entire market technology as such. So such technologies are coming in, which would obviously make things easier. There is obviously another, our friend, dear friend Ankit from Fimer did talk about central inverters as well. There are certain technologies that are coming in within central inverters which do pick up a lot of advantages that string inverters have, such as multi MPPTs and so on and so forth, which would obviously make things easier for larger utility-based projects. I'd say whilst this technology improvement is happening, what is extremely important within Nepal is The regulatory atmosphere needs to improve for the utility scale projects to pick up. And there's got to be a little more, participation, a lot more participation from the commercial and the industrial sector, so that the rooftop project can start picking up. That we've seen in India has been one of the major drivers for private participation into the renewable energy sector, which has further on led to government taking a more conscious role, a more active role in promoting technologies or promoting installations. I mean, as you were talking about Nepal, in India also, if you look at it, although the initial installation started through cities, the first bit came in around 2009, 2010, and the idea was at that point in time to do 20,000 megawatts by 2020. Uh, but you saw within the next 2 to 3 years, not a lot of tendered-based projects coming in, but a substantial capacity of commercial and industrial projects coming in. Companies of international repute now, which were absolutely nascent at that point in time, companies like Azure, which is one of the largest solar sector player in the world now, and a couple of other companies of similar ilk came up purely based on commercial and industrial installations. And that, to an extent, helped even the country, the government essentially at that one time, decide on setting up a 50 gigawatt sort of a target for solar rooftop projects. Right? So that, in a certain fashion, helped drive policy, not the other way around. So what we need is in the need in Nepal is regulatory for utility and CNI participation in order to then further promote installations also.
Quickly, one question to you, Mayank. This concern from the technical people at the utility about the instabilities. How do we manage that?
Mhm. Sir, again, solar is
The
not a
mistake.
new technology. I mean, it's not a new setup. It's not a new setup. It's just that one needs to be able to view everything. I mean, you can't really compare apples and oranges. That's the first thing that we need to start doing, right? And that is what the entire ecosystem starts to look at. There is obviously a hydro bias that exists, and there is a tendency to essentially look at everything to do with energy with that hydro goggles as such. That is what needs to be done away with first and foremost. Second, when you talk about instability, sir, in terms of generation, infirmness is obviously a con, but there are possibilities, there are technologies available. You talked about storage, which is a very clear, development that's happening. The world is shaping as we see when it comes to storage solutions. There is a
Yeah.
clear improvement. We in fact, a few days back, we were talking about hydrogen ammonia essentially as a possible storage solution as well. We're not just talking about conventional battery or conventional storage energy storage solutions, but we're converting them to a completely different fuel for that matter as well, which will later on be used for electricity and so on and so forth. But the idea is there are storage solutions that exist. The market needs to move along with that for that matter. Um, uh, just need to stop looking at solar as hydro and another guys. Solar has its own individual strengths. That is what we need to focus on.
Exactly. Exactly. Thanks, Meg. I will come back to you, but let me go to Mr. Praveen Aryal now. Mr. Aryal has been in the energy sector for a long, long time now. Started off his career in hydro and transmission and you name it. He has done a lot of projects. And now he's getting into solar. He's leading a few projects which are already in construction and quite a few other solar projects which are in active development phase. So, Pravinji, what do you see the differences now between your experience with the hydro and with the solar? Hydro seems to be a more mature industry, and there needs to be a lot more to be done in the solar side. What do you say? You're on mute, Pravinji. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saf. Yeah, first of all, I think there is a certain problem. We are not able to, demonstrate the importance of the solar till the date. That is clear. Even government of Nepal has, this introduced energy mix program sometimes in 2017, 2018, and it was clearly mentioned 10% energy should be from other form of energy apart from hydro. That should be biogas, wind. So the solar business started from there. But even this 10%, I have I have the reservation about this 10%. So if you, calculate the energy, 1 megawatt solar energy versus 1 megawatt hydro energy, it is coming almost one third only. So, for example, 1 megawatt hydro can produce 5 to 6 GWh energy. So, we are producing only 1.6 to 2 maximum. So, it is 10% should not be there, at least 30% should be there. And again, if you see the generation trend in Nepal, only last year, I have read somewhere it is about 710 megawatt hydro is grid connected, generated in last year only. Compared to the solar, 910 megawatt only.
Yeah.
Till the date, only 50 megawatt solar is grid connected, and some 30 megawatt already done the PPA under this construction, and few projects are waiting for the PPA. We in this Golan group also 40 megawatt project ready to sign the PPA, but I don't know what is the reason behind not signing the PPA, because we have completed all these prerequisite activities. So definitely we have to, I mean, organize such event quite frequently, because last year this 2022 Nepal Solar Week, from there to 1 year, 7 8 megawatt only solar has been added in this grid, compared to the hydro 700 plus megawatt. So we have to, I mean, interact regularly with the concerned authority, regulatory body, to expedite this, to show importance of this solar business in Nepal. Regarding this technology, what you have, we are discussing here. So going forward, so we can say in Nepal, not in Nepal, in across the globe, we are using this polycrystalline and this monocrystalline. Only two type of existing. And even already Mike already highlighted this. We are in our project. This 640 WP solar panel is installing there. So there are several benefit from this panel also. There are bifacial type, half cut cell. This is a N type, P type. So in Nepal, we are not very familiar with all this technology. As a developer side, we look forward to have more details on this, and we will see how this biofiscal, which we are introducing in our one project, how this generation trend will be there. Thank you, sir.
Rohit, quickly, a couple of questions come to my mind to you. For you, one is, yes, the technology part, that can be taken care of. What do you see the possibilities going forward with the construction, contracting for these type of solar projects, and the financing part of it? Are we there yet at par with what is happening in the neighborhood in the neighboring countries?
Yeah, financing part, I think local commercial bank can handle this financial part, because in Nepal, we are not talking about the mega project, this maximum 10 12 megawatt project. So if you calculate solar cost, this 100 crore, 110 crores of this for 10 megawatt, 12 megawatt. So this easily can be handled by the single commercial bank in Nepal. Yeah, definitely. There must not be any issue regarding this. I mean, this financing part from the local bank. But nevertheless, now last 6 7 months, the bank having a big crunch of this financial, so it is getting difficult to for the disbursement. Again, this all this solar is, I mean, brought to supply type of item. So we have to faith in the, I mean, the globally. Now, if you compare Nepali rupees and US dollar mainly, so it was been devaluated largely, already 127 28. So the rate, I mean, what we have anticipated 6 months ago, it is not going to apply here.
Right, right. And from the construction perspective, are there enough?
Yeah,
Um,
construction project with this solar construction is not, I mean, rocket science. Definitely, there are certain approval needed. This environmental aspect also needed. Regarding this generation energy, so we where the selected, I mean, land for the solar construction, it is not. We have to try as near as this substation generation part. Otherwise, this most of the this steel parts is coming from India. I think we have to teach Nepali entrepreneur also to make such production, because this is a very simple structure. This mounting structure, steel structure, it can be made in Nepal also. So this also we have to look again. So most of the part is coming from China, India. So we have to take a call what Nepali can support on this. Rest we have to, I mean, faith on India and China. But it is not going to be difficult to construct construction point of view solar in the Nepal.
So you are quite hopeful for the
Yeah, I'm
industry.
quite hopeful. There are several EPC player already engaged in this business, and they are doing quite good job till the date, I can say.
Possibility of manufacturing panels in Nepal? You think so?
Yeah, we have to explore this possibility. We are, I mean, it is also availability of some panel, this silicon and other stuff. So yeah, it is possible. No question.
Good. Hopefully, Bullion Group will take the lead on that.
I'm not sure. So we are now. I mean, implementing the project. Two project 10 megawatt is under construction, and our 40 megawatt four other projects are in pipeline.
Good. I'll come back to you later, Pravijit. Thanks for now. Gunraj Dhakalji from the Renewable Energy Confederation of Nepal. He's been in this sector for a long, long time. Gunrajji, what do you see as the future of grid-connected solar? There's been a lot of development on the off-grid side, but here we are talking about the grid-connected solar. And we have these limitations from the policy aspects on up to 10%, and do this, do that. A lot of policy barriers, tariff barriers have been introduced. So, from a confederation perspective, what do you see as the way forward for the industry?
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Yeah, it is globally the solar has very potential, and it has very large scope and big scope, which you have already mentioned. But unfortunately, Nepal, uh, we should focus for the energy security by pro- providing energy mix system in. Uh, I'm fully agree with the previous speaker, Mr. Praveen Agrawal. 10% is not sufficient for the energy security, because Nepal is very vulnerable country. Sometimes some uh, earthquake and other uh, regions, some dams should have damaged, and other fraud activities has been we have already seen. That's why we should secure the energy quality wise and quantity wise. That's why 10% is already there for the security as in energy mix. But uh, we should have minimum 30% energy security for the renewable energy, not only for the hydro, because hydro is one of the best suitable technology for Nepal as the water resource available. But we should have a supplement energy. That's why policy wise Nepal government uh, is not providing sufficient environment for the generation of solar electricity. Even you have already mentioned the Indian model is not applicable in Nepal, because in India, Indian government support for the development of all infrastructure, and private company can work for the power generation. But in Nepal, policy wise, solar system is only for the uh, agri solar also not accepted by the government, where technologically this is possible. But in this today's discussion, we have discussed for the grid solar and large utility solar. Uh, for this is very good scope, because solar is abundantly available, and um, this previous speaker already mentioned manufacturing of solar industry also possible in Nepal, and assembling plant also tried to establish some years ago, which is also possible. And we have already seen the success story for the good implementation of the grid solar, which can stabilize the power and the quality of the, which can increase the quality of the grid system. Uh, so uh, this is only hydro is very risk from the energy security perspective. So and the construction of the hydropower takes many years, but installation of the solar can be completed within this 6 months, 5 to 6 months, and easy to install and easy to dismantle. That's why Nepal government should increase the tariff of the PPA rate and the energy security system. Then very good scope for the generation of the mini grid system in solar.
Yeah, Gunraji, I'll take you on that one. On the um, the gestation period, as we call it, the time to market for
Yeah.
a hydro project versus a solar. I'm not trying to go against the hydros. I've done hydros all my life
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
and I'm doing a lot of solar as well now. But the general perception in the among the policymakers and the utilities is that solar is very low risk
Yeah.
projects, low risk business.
Yes.
Why should it be getting a higher tariff compared to hydro?
Yeah.
When in the hydro you take 7, 8, 9, 10 years to build a project, and then there is so much risk about geology, construction, finance, everything. So what do you have to say about that? Is it less risk, less risky compared to hydro? And what we have also heard now is that the government is pushing to reduce the expected returns from solar projects. So what do you say about that? I mean, why should this business be looked at in a negative manner?
Yeah, definitely solar is not competing with hydro. It is complementary, and it is very the price of the solar decreasing day by day, and globally it is very attractive. But in Nepal, most of the most of the government official has been gone to uh, India for the study of the hydropower, and they have in their mind hydro is only solution. They do not try to understand about the present situation of the coming market and coming business. I think that is one problem uh, about the policymaker who don't want to understand the situation, actual situation, and what is actual reality. It is bitter true. They are only focused for the large hydropower. Burigandaki hydropower, it takes 15 to 16 years to complete the project. But in comparison to Burigandaki hydropower, we can implement many solar power plants equivalent to Burigandaki hydropower within a very short period of time. But Nepal government do not
Yeah,
make focus. That is bitter truth. They have not understand our voice up to now, but we are always trying to make united voice to convince them. We are still working for that. I think one day they can understand.
sure, sure. Thank you, Gunarji. I think very
We
important
hope it.
points here. Yes, which I will put to the other speakers as well. One is on the price competitiveness, and the other is technology obsolescence,
Yeah.
and the third is the environmental and social impact. Mayank,
Yes.
would you like to go first
Yeah.
on that? The price competitiveness, technology obsolescence, and the
Yeah.
environmental and social impacts of solar projects.
So I think it's
Take
largely
the first one.
regarded. So I'd like to take it comprehensively and perhaps then
All of you.
try and respond it one by one, sir. I think one thing that we need to obviously understand is it's we're discovering what has already been invented, implemented, experienced across the world. So it's not something that we actually have to, we don't have to reinvent the wheel altogether. So in terms of the way the solar technology works, there is some amount of deference that we have to obviously give to the fact that that solar is the largest installed capacity within renewable energy, post hydro to an extent across the world, right? And this is what has been considered as the go-to solution, right? And one would look at perhaps application and whether the same technology, same models can be translated from a developed to an underdeveloped or a developing economy for that matter. But the good thing about solar essentially is that it finds appeal across the world, irrespective of what sort of economy it comes in. The fact that it is modular, essentially, it allows us for any sort of application at any scale, with replication, so on and so forth. Be it as nodular a requirement as a simple single point or a simple charging solution to a home lighting system or a home electrification system, to a microgrid, to a 10 megawatt or a 5 megawatt setup that allows to run an industry, and then a utility scale project. Um, One of the things that we obviously need to, from an environmental perspective, because that's something that's extremely stringent when it comes to Nepal. In fact, one of the things that we talk about, the long due diligence or the long approval cycle essentially in Nepal, is to a very large extent based on the fact that we need to seek out a TOR and an IE approval and so on and so forth, which itself takes around 6 to 7 months time in order to get done for up to a 10 megawatt project as such. There are certain limitations and there are certain processes, systems that have existed across the board for different projects within Nepal. But there is definitely a scope to perhaps learn from the experiences of countries or economies or geographies which have similar sort of ilk or have similar sort of reservations when it comes to, or rather stringent norms when it comes to environmental conservation, and see whether the same learnings from there can be translated here in order to improve this process. What we end up doing effectively is, in our a single-minded focus of ensuring environmental conservation, which is very important, no question about it. We essentially leave out at times a more efficient way of conserving environment, right? There's got to be a short-term effect, a mid-term effect, and a long-term effect as well. Solar is largely regarded as having seen at least 25 to 30 years of installation across the world, regarded as one of the most eco-friendly solutions across, not just in during its generation cycle, but manufacturing as well as its disposal as well, right? More often than not, the disposal essentially is not it's repowering of the existing setup, and the equipment that are no longer used being translated to different applications elsewhere. So that is one of the ways the life of the equipment increases and so on and so forth. So that is what I'd say when it comes to the environmental part of it. There are certain learnings that need to be had. In terms of comparison, the price parity of it, there are a lot of, see, that is where things become a little different. If you look at any project, right, every project has when it comes to capital expenditure of a project, there are certain headers with it. One header obviously is the cost of equipment, right? The cost of equipment largely is, which would not necessarily, so for a panel to be imported from China to India, let's say that the module is being manufactured in China, where most of the panels in the world are. For me to get those panels from China to India, and rather than from India to Nepal, from China to Nepal, would not be a lot different as such. There'll be some markup with that because there is more transportation cost. A similar case study, essentially, a similar case applies on other manufacturing and other materials as well, be it steel, be it cables. Most of the equipment that we bring in, the costs would not be very different. But what would become different essentially is issues such as time to cash, purely on the fact that the gestation period is extremely not necessarily post capex primarily, but at least the approval stage or shovel ready stage itself is quite long. Second, the cost of debt is extremely high. I would add to what Praveenji had said, when it comes to the banks being local banks being able to fund projects. There are clear problems there. One problem essentially is that the interest rates are extremely volatile in nature, right? So at time when one would plan a project at, I don't know, 8 to 9%, or at times there were times when the debt came down to 7.5 to 7% as well, and fixed rates were offered at that point in time. These numbers have now jumped to 12%, 13%. In a span of year, we've actually seen a sinusoidal curve, not sinusoidal, but at least a bell curve when it comes to a reverse bell curve rather when it comes to interest costs, and that is not good for any market, especially given the fact that that 1 year counts for nothing when it comes to a project development phase. The project conceptualization to the shovel ready stage itself is around a year and a half, in the best case scenario in Nepal. And for you to have such drastic changes in financial costs doesn't really help. So when it comes to the the cost parity or the purchase parity, one needs to know a similar situation does not exist in India. It's a very stable sort of a market. A similar situation does not exist in the rest of the world. The cost of funding is extremely low. The availability of land is not that big of a problem as it is in Nepal. You don't have contiguous land. The scale of the project itself is much smaller. We are only looking at 10 megawatt. I mean, the economy of the scale that one could achieve at 100 megawatts, which is the norm primarily in India. In fact, 100 is also a smaller number now. We're talking about 200, 300 megawatts. The economies of scale cannot be achieved in Nepal. The development support that you had mentioned, Dr. Shah, during your opening remarks, that one gets to have in countries like Nepal from the government does not exist in Nepal at all. Not a single support exists. In fact, there are certain additional layers of requirements that are added on a daily basis, which just further prolong the process. So I'd say it would definitely not be. I mean, what it would be doing an absolute injustice to just look at the numbers and say, listen, oh, India, the cost is not very different. India, the cost should be, if the number of if the tariff is coming down to 2.5 rupees or 3 rupees, not and the same should be applied in Nepal as well. And not looking into the capital expenditure requirements are much lower. A much higher development support exists, right? A much more stable environment exists when it comes to policy. A much more stable environment that exists also in one more in terms of funding. And I'd just add one more point to it, Toksha, and then perhaps we could move on. Is there is an absolute lack of, so there is one issue that affects the any investment in Nepal, especially international investments, which is the lack of a sovereign credit rating, which exists in India, right? So, for example, if Renego, which is an Indian entity, essentially wants to come in and invest in Nepal, and if we are looking to seek international funding in order to further projects in Nepal, that's just not possible, right? So that restricts. It's both good and bad because it allows for a lot of local investments to come in, but then they're not always the ideal situation to jumpstart a sector, right? That is what is missing.
Yeah, well said. Mike, well said. A lot of good points there. I'll come back to that at the end. But Pravinji, the cost of capital for these projects, where do we see the market heading now? Can we do projects beyond these 10 megawatts?
Of course, we can do beyond the 10 megawatt, but like country like Nepal, it will be difficult to find out the good land for to install the solar. Regarding this cost of solar, first, I think we have to acknowledge the solar industry is a daytime reservoir project. We may able to supply 9 to 10 hour continuous energy at full generation graph. If you compare the price energy price of reservoir project in Nepal, forget other project, just one this Tanhu project, it is coming 11 cent per unit. Even this Tanu project will generate in the energy evening also, but morning also. So solar will start from 7 to at least 5 p.m. in the evening, and we are asking only 5.5 cent per unit only. So definitely
Yeah.
we have to acknowledge this.
No, very good point there, Pravinji, about the the cost of energy, you know, most of the discussions that are happening in Nepal is about the cost per megawatt.
Yeah.
That should not be the discussion. It should be the cost per unit of energy. And also, if you look at the life cycle cost, the levelized cost would be a better way of comparing these numbers. If you look at a run-of-river scheme where you're looking at something like 5 to 5.25 US cents per unit levelized cost. Solar prices are also coming very close to that now, as you
Yeah.
rightly mentioned, 5.5, 5.7
Yeah.
US cents levelized cost. So the price competitiveness is coming, and I think as we go forward, we will see certain improvements in the technology and also the reduction in prices. So we will be equally competitive to the hydros in Nepal, which are there right now. Financing, that was one good point Mayank brought up. Uh, we could have much better financing arrangements. Yes, the local banks are funding it. Unfortunately, the cost of capital is not fixed. It varies depending on the liquidity situation in the market. If we can bring in FDI, if we can get in, some blended type of finance, we could improve the viability of these projects. So, how do we go about convincing the government? Yes, the credit rating which you mentioned, Mayank, that is being done. It should have been published last March, but there have been some delays. The credit rating is, I think, being done by PwC or S&P or someone. Someone is doing it. But yes, we could bring in cheaper capital, blend it, and make it more competitive in the market. So, Pravinji, any possibilities FDI
Yeah, we are
financing?
already, yeah, we are already exploring, but there are several step to feel fulfilled before we are I mean bringing the fund from the abroad. Definitely, we are already exploring this model in our project, but it is not an easy job. We have lots of things to be complete to bring the fund from the abroad. Even this, if you see the cost again, the cost of this project, 45 to 50% cost we have to pay for the panel module.
Yes.
Next 25-30% definitely for this inverter and other accessories, cables and CTPT others. 10% at least land. So basically, our group is buying the land. We are not leasing the land. And again, 10-12% of this civil works is this fencing, boundary fencing material.
Yeah.
So we have to rely 80% in the foreign currency.
Mm.
You are also developer, sir, Dr. So if you compare the panel price, module price from last year to this year, 19-20 cent to already 28-29 cent.
Yes.
And due to this, I mean, after Russia and Ukraine war, this fuel price has been gone up. I mean, without any imagination. This transportation cost is also be very expensive.
Yes.
So yeah, the cost is. As an open book. No any developer making a big profit on the solar business from the solar business.
Right.
So this we have to convince to the regulatory party.
Yeah. I think a very important point you have raised there, Pravinji. The cost of panels has gone up, the
Yeah,
currency has depreciated, the transportation charges have increased,
yeah,
and yet the utility wants us to reduce the tariff.
yeah,
So, there have been some very rough numbers which have been done on the returns at those tariffs which the utility is proposing, and these are single
yeah.
digit returns. So, why would anyone do a project at single digit return when you can get a double digit return by putting the money in fixed deposit in
In
the
the
bank?
bank. Yes, yes.
So, Okay, I think lots of discussion on the monetary side. Gunraj, on the environmental and social side, the discussion, and I saw a question over here in the question box also about the availability of land. Nepal being an agricultural country, and how much land would be required for, let's say, 2,000 megawatts of grid connected solar, and would this be displacing any of the agricultural productivity of these lands? So, what do you have to say about that?
Actually, theoretically, environmental, for the consideration of environmental, the solar is the clean energy. It has not adverse effect for the environment because we do not have a battery system in the grid system. That's why it is fully renewable and clean energy. So very less impact for the environment and society also. Uh, that's why mm, for the uh, land, how much megawatt, sir?
Let's say 2,000 megawatts. Uh,
For the
there have been different numbers which have been floated about the potential of solar in Nepal. And I've heard 3,000 megawatts. I've also heard 6,000 megawatts. Let's say I'll be conservative. Let's say 2,000 megawatts of solar in Nepal. The amount of land which will be required for this type of generation, um, will it have a major impact on the available agricultural land, or will it
yeah,
be done mostly in the fallow, or sloping land?
yeah, that is announced by the Nepal government. Yeah,
Yes.
but it is not actually true. It is supportive for the agricultural land because we can have a supply provide water by using water pump, but not affect the land. If we can utilize the solar, and we can also use the barren land and non-productive land, and it is not necessary to 100% barren land.
Mm.
That's why uh, it is conservative mind to reduce the promotion of the solar energy sector. Uh, that's why I my humble request to provide the land from government side, and it is not necessary to barren land and non-productive land to generation of the solar, which is not environmentally uh, affect. That's we can select the isolated land or suitable type of the land. It has some small impact because the solar panel is the covered by the area. Yeah, but we can manage the different type of agricultural product which is suitable under the solar panel. That's why it has the less environmental effect.
Right. And I think you have put it very well, Gunarji, that yes, land is available. 2,000 megawatts, the thumb rule that we have been using here is 1 hectare per megawatt. And, we have a lot of agricultural land which is not being used. Then there's a lot of non-productive fallow land which can be used for solar generation. So the possibilities are immense. 2,000 megawatt is a very conservative number. We can see at least double of that. So I think we can move on from here to when Priyanshi, you want to start the Q&A session, or should we wrap it up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Would you like to choose few questions, or would you like to take it all because there are a lot of questions?
Yes, but I've lost it from my screen. Where is it?
No problem. I'll display it. You can choose if you want to take it or you want to move
I
ahead.
think I just read a few of this. This one, yeah, how much of solar is connected to the national grid? Any idea? Yeah, as we said, about 50 megawatts has been connected to the grid, and there is about another 50 megawatts which are in construction, and almost I will say 150 megawatts in active development, meaning they are waiting for a power purchase agreement. So that's where we are on that. But as we were discussing, there is a possibility of doing much more.
Okay.
So just to have a very broad grid reaching all the possible locations, very well put. We need to expand the grid. At the moment, the grid in Nepal is focused mainly in the east-west southern belt of Nepal. So the high capacity transmission lines are located there. The substations are there. There is a plan from the government to build north-south lines and also, having redundancy in the system using north-south capacity development. So grids are coming. The grid capacity is increasing. Uh, what we have to be very careful about is how far are we going to be from an existing or a proposed substation. That's going to be very important. We can't have very long transmission lines for a 10 megawatt plant. If we had a 100 megawatt plant, probably we could build a 100-kilometer transmission line. But we have to be practical here. There are constraints, there are congestions. Availability of right of way for transmission lines is going to be very important. So, yes, the grid has to be expanded.
So, sir, we'll
Um,
take this last question and then we can wrap up the session.
Yeah. Yes, there is a policy, the government, which has been changing quite a lot. So it's one key word which was it Mayank, who was mentioning several times in his, saying that stability of policies is very, very important. Stability in policy for all infrastructure projects is very important. And I think for a new technology industry coming up here in Nepal, it becomes much more important to have a stable policy regime. Changing the policy every 6 months is not going to help the system. It will not encourage developers to come and put up power plants. And the lenders, the developers all need to see certain guarantees, a lot of certainties among the policy in the policy, so that they can invest with they are risk takers, but they take calculated risks. They do not gamble with the money. That's what I would like to say.
Great.
5 megawatt AC, 6 megawatt peak. Belchotara Solar PV Plant. Developer, Solar Farm Private Limited and Dolma Impact Fund. APC partner, Renergo Developers Private Limited. Driven with the motto to invest in and develop a portfolio of sustainable, unique and profitable renewable energy-based projects in South Asia, Renergo Developers has been a key player in the development of solar power in Nepal. Renergo is a name synonymous with quality and high-performing solar power projects. With a pipeline of over 150 megawatt projects, Renergo is paving the way for creation of a robust solar energy ecosystem based on state-of-the-art technologies and best industry practices. Our project, be it the first ever solar FIT PPA signed in Nepal, or the first ADB funded solar project, or the first to use mono PERC modules, or be it our upcoming projects across the length and breadth of Nepal, we aim to bring awe inspiring delivery, state of the art technologies, and stellar performance to all our projects. We look forward to contributing to the growth of solar space in Nepal. Renergo Developers Private Limited has taken the initiative to help the people during and after COVID 19 in Nepal and India. Let's Save Life has donated more than 5,000 oxygen cylinders, provided food and shelter to the needy ones, and also saved life by arranging plasma and blood donors. www.letsavelife.com. People die due to various reasons. And the most common is due to lack of support, which can be emotional, physical, mental, medical, and more. Life is beautiful, and saving life is more beautiful. We can be the part of this journey just by minor effort. Let's Save Life is a platform to make those small attempts impactful any way possible. Let's join hands together and save a life.
Thank you so much, team, for playing the sponsor video. Now, I would like to thank all the
Together
panelists.
and save a life.
I would like to thank all the panelists and special thanks to Dr. Sandeep sir to lead the discussion. You were absolutely outstanding, and thank you so much for the terrific and very professional example you set as a moderator. It was a pleasure having such a well planned and high energy panel discussion. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
if this would have been a physical event, we would have got a standing ovation for this amazing panel. Thanks a lot, everyone. So,
Thank
see
you.
you in next 10 minutes with the next session on the Rooftop Solar and the Gala Awards. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the panelists. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you.